come and move this mic. We're going to begin on page 22, and then we'll do a quick turn to page 10. But let's start on page 22. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך העליון, להגיד בבוקר הזדהה ואמונתך בלילות, עלי השר ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בהינור, להגיד בבוקר הזדהה ואמונתך בלילות, עלי השר ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון והינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך העליון, להגיד בבוקר הזדהה ואמונתך בלילות, עלי השר ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון היגיון והינור להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות עלי השר ועלי נבל עלי היגיון והינור. Page 10. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שברכים גם יחד. 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 הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שברכים גם יחד.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's wonderful to be here together with you, whether you're here with us physically in the room or joining us from wherever you are. I'm Rabbi Ellie Molbaum. I'm so pleased to be here with Cantor Vladimir Lappin, with Joey Skoch and Joe Tomino, making this such a special Shabbat. We're really glad to be able to gather and pray and be present with Shabbat this evening. Though it may seem wildly unseasonal to us here in Cleveland, on Monday, Jews around the world will celebrate a holiday called Tu B'Shvat, the holiday we fondly refer to as the birthday of the trees. Though we don't see much sprouting here just yet, this winter festival reminds us of the potential of growth and life dwelling below the surface of the earth. It's a reminder to us of our own potential during hard seasons and of our resilience. Rabbi Devin Spear offers this poem connecting self-actualization and this holiday of Tu B'Shvat. She writes, "Our whole life we live among trees, but do any of us know we are one of them? Species sprout out of the earth, not from a single source, but their own miraculous uniqueness, forged by years in unknown lands, pasturing to barrenness, giving birth in death. It will be years before any of our own fruit comes forth, but our senses to live even as we wither away, to move through seasons that would have us become the word we say, proclaims the righteousness of our ever-dying life. Our vocabulary grows the field." As we come together this Shabbat, we consider our own periods of recovery and cultivation, of resting and growing and thriving. While every Shabbat is special, tonight is particularly so. We are honored to have here with us our own Temple member, James Pash, incoming Senior Director of National Litigation for the Anti-Defamation League. Tonight, James will share with our community his perspective on the current trends of anti-Semitism and reflections on fighting hate in an ever-polarizing society. James, we're really glad you're here with us tonight, and we are excited to welcome you and Carly and Mackenzie and Hayden to help lead us in the lighting of our Shabbat candles. The blessing is found on page 2 in our prayer book, so you can join with us.
Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת. We continue welcoming Shabbat on page 12 with words of Psalm 95, L'chu Neranena, page 12. Join with us. Let us sing unto God a new song. Let us sing unto God a new song. Yai la la, yai la la, yai la la, yai la la, la 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 la, yai la la, yai la la. Join with us. L'chu neranena l'Adonai, naniya l'tzur yishenu, nekadma fanav betoda, bizmirot nariya lo, bizmirot nariya lo. Let us sing unto God a new song. Let us sing unto God a new song. Yai la la, yai la la, la la la, yai la la, la 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 la, yai la la, la la la, la 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 la, yai la 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 la.
We turn now to our handouts for Lecha Adonai and Romemu, the inside of the first page.
Lecha Adonai הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד כי הול בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד כי הול בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני המלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש רוממו 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 אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להדום רגליו קדוש הוא רוממו 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 אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להדום kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, romemu, romemu Adonai Eloheinu, vehishtahavu lehadom raglav kadosh hu. Romemu, romemu, romemu Adonai Eloheinu, vehishtahavu lehar kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
We continue with Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain on page 19. These verses from Psalm 29, page 19.
Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain, Adonai Yivarech et Amo. Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain, Adonai Yivarech et Amo. Shalom. Shalom. Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain, Adonai Yivarech et Amo. Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain, Adonai Yivarech et Amo. Adonai Yivarech et Amo. Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain, Adonai Yivarech et Amo.
We continue with our mystical acrostic poem, Lecha Dodi, on pages 20 and 21, as we invite the presence of Shabbat here into our midst. And the beauty of this mystical moment is you can do it wherever you are, whether you're here physically with us, whether you're watching on live stream. Shabbat is where we are, and so we will joyfully welcome Shabbat here. We'll sing together verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Ay, 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 lecha dodi, ay, 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 likrat kala, ay, 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 penei Shabbat nekabela, ay, 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 lecha dodi, ay, 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 likrat kala, ay, 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 penei Shabbat nekabela. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלהג, היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקה. verse 5, התעוררי, התעוררי, כי בא אורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. Verse 9, we greet the Sabbath bride. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. איי 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 לקראת, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה.
We invite you to remain standing as we turn to page 28 and join together with the Baruch Hu.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך, לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד. יאללה לי לי לי, 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 יאללה לי לי לי.
On page 30, we join together in the Hebrew of Ma'ariv Aravim, acknowledging the wonder of being able to perceive the differences between day and night. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Bore yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, uma'avdil ben yom uven layla. Adonai tzevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch alenu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. We'll turn to page 32 and offer gratitude for the gift that is Torah.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
You may be seated. We'll continue with the chanting of the Ahafta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בעם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem.
אמת.
Tonight we mark Shabbat Shira, this special name for a Shabbat where we read Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea. Excerpts from that ancient poem are included in our liturgy, most prominently in our next prayer, Mi Chamocha. As the Hebrews make it out of Egypt, walking between walls of water and emerging safely, miraculously on the other side, they express their awe and wonder and gratitude to God. They say, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, who is like you among the other gods, Adonai? Mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, who is like you, majestic in holiness? The Hebrews had run in fear from Pharaoh and his armies, fleeing for their lives. Their sense of gratitude as they make it across, seeing Pharaoh and the armies swallowed by the sea, comes out in song. What an incredible moment this must have been for our ancestors. And in fact, we're commanded to read the story of our people's exodus as if it were our very own experience, as if we gathered here today were the ones redeemed from Pharaoh. Of course, this narrative continues to be powerfully relevant. It seems that in each generation, our people have faced forces that seek to destroy us. We may not walk between walls of water, but we do have allies and friends who stand beside us, serving as walls of support, ensuring we keep walking in safe paths. We turn in our prayer books now to our Song of Redemption, Mi Chamocha, on page 40, and be ready to look ahead to 342.
Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamoha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh felet, nora tehilot oseh felet. Malchutecha ra'uvanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Ze Elianu ve'amru, ze Elianu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Page 342, 342. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wore was one which sang our history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. When Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of the miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would just to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and night. We've just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long.
If you want to learn more about Miriam's song, join me tomorrow on Zoom for Torah study. I see some of my people here. I know some of you are watching. Join us for Torah study tomorrow morning on Zoom. We'll learn more about Miriam's song. In the meantime, we will turn now to prayers of peace, inviting the presence of God to shelter us beneath the shadow of God's wings. On page 42, we offer the words of Hashkivenu, a nighttime prayer where we feel vulnerable and we ask to feel the safe presence of God with us.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'ha'amidenu shomreinu Shomreinu lechayim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים.
Achad Ha'am taught more than the Jewish people has kept Shabbat. Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. At the top of page 44, we offer Vishamru, these words from the book of Exodus that mark just how special the covenant with God is and how Shabbat is a sign of that special relationship, that special covenant.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת.
We continue with the Amidah beginning on page 46. Please rise if you are able.
Yai lai 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 Adonai שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך Adonai open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Velohei Avotenu V'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Velohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Velohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Ve'anora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei Hakol V'zocher Chazdei Avot V'imahot ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך מלך ממית ומחיי ומצמיח ישוע ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יעללו חסלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. We continue now with a few moments of private prayer, of personal introspection, following either the words on the pages of the prayer book or wherever our hearts and minds take us this Shabbat. We'll pause now and join back together in a few minutes on page 62.
Page 62. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי
This Shabbat, we are grateful to have our own temple member, James Pash, joining us on the Bima. James was recently named the Anti-Defamation League's Senior Director of National Litigation after serving the last 4 years as the ADL's Cleveland Regional Director, serving Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Western Pennsylvania. Building on the path-breaking litigation that ADL has helped to bring in federal court for the District of Columbia against the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers for the role they played in the January 6th insurrection, James is leading a legal advocacy practice for ADL during a particularly important time as anti-Semitism and extremism become more mainstreamed, normalized, and amplified, both online and off. In his new position, James will build a strategy of legal advocacy to combat anti-Semitism and other forms of hate, regardless of their political or ideological source. In his time leading the ADL Cleveland office, James launched a pro bono legal assistance program to assist victims of hate crimes in Ohio. And under his leadership, ADL's No Place for Hate education programming has grown over 200% region-wide. He also drove our region's response in the aftermath of the Tree of Life synagogue attack in Pittsburgh, the deadliest terror attack on Jews in United States history. James graduated from University of Vermont and earned his law degree at Case Western Reserve University School of Law. Prior to entering the legal profession, he worked on Capitol Hill, first for Senator Frank Lautenberg and then as a law clerk on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He then built a thriving small firm litigation practice in Cleveland. Is there anything you haven't done, James? Have you won any Emmys? You've done a lot of things. This is an amazing biography. I'm almost done. James served as the Case Western Reserve Law School's Assistant Dean of Development and External Affairs during the law school's capital campaign. James has also served 2 terms as a councilman in Beechwood, Ohio, where he led the city's passage of its anti-discrimination ordinance. James and his wife Carly and their 2 children live in Beechwood, Ohio, and we are so glad they are Fairmount Temple members. James, we are so glad to welcome you to our Bima to speak to our community this Shabbat. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. It is a tremendous honor to be able to speak anywhere, but to be able to speak at our synagogue is extra special. So thank you for welcoming me, welcoming my family this evening. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in Shabbat, so thank you. When I was thinking about the Torah portion for today, and it's a story continually through our history of persecution and then perseverance. And then I think about where we are today with the rising tide of anti-Semitism in the United States and abroad, and I think about our continual struggle as a people, the persecution, and then the perseverance. And the overarching tone that I want to talk with you about this evening is, even though I'm going to go through some of the statistics, which are relatively horrifying, it's about the perseverance. I know, as much as anti-Semitism is rising, that we will get through this on the other side, and that we will be stronger for it. We've always survived, we've always persevered, and we will do it yet again. So to set the frame, one of the things I wanted to do, and I know this will have less effect for those live streaming at home, but by a show of hands, who here has either in the last 5 years been a victim of anti-Semitism, known somebody who's been a victim of anti-Semitism, or heard from a friend that somebody has been a victim of anti-Semitism, either online or offline? A show of hands. A lot of you. There's a reason for that, and it's because the rates of anti-Semitism have been skyrocketing over the last 5 years. We just recently at ADL released a survey a couple of weeks ago about anti-Semitic attitudes in the United States, where we poll 11 questions, kind of the age-old anti-Semitic tropes, right? Jews have too much power, too much money, we control different industries. 20% of all Americans believed in 6 or more of those anti-Semitic tropes. It was just 9% a few years ago. It's a staggering amount of Americans that now believe in that. 3% of Americans believe in all 11 anti-Semitic tropes. And you might say 3% is not a lot. That's 10 million Americans. That is more people than there are Jews in this country. And so that gives you the landscape of the different anti-Semitic thoughts that people have. If you match that, one of the reporters I was talking to after the release said to me, "What's your biggest takeaway from the survey?" And I said, well, as somebody who's fighting on the front lines, responding to anti-Semitic incidents every day, I'm not surprised. Right? It's horrifying and sobering, but unsurprising. And why do I say it's unsurprising? Well, because every year since the 1970s, ADL tracks every anti-Semitic incident that gets reported into our office. Last year, in 2021, it was the highest amount of anti-Semitic incidents we have ever tracked across this country, of harassment, vandalism, and assault. Over 7 incidents that our staff responded to every single day of the year across this country. Here in Ohio, in the region that I cover, we have seen a 100% increase over the last 5 years. 100% increase of assaults, harassment, and vandalism towards the Jewish people. You don't have to look further than this past week in the state of Ohio. As you've probably seen, we made the news in Upper Sandusky this past week, national headlines of a couple that were homeschooling their children to become Nazis. And they created an online following of 2,500 other parents across the country to inspire them to do the same. These are the challenges that we are up against right now as a people. That local tinderbox is matched by what we have seen nationally, right? The headlines have been unavoidable in the last several months as some of the largest media moguls in the world and athletes have used their platforms to spread the most vile types of anti-Semitism. So when somebody says to me, maybe we're better off ignoring Kanye West, one of the things that we need to talk about is how much those ideas are popularized when people of his stature use their platforms to spread hate. Kanye West has more social media followers than Jews that exist on this planet. And he is using that platform to spew anti-Semitism. And it's the same old anti-Semitic tropes that we talked about in the survey. Jews are too powerful. They control the music industry. They control the banking industry. It's the same old anti-Semitic tropes. And the reason why we need to talk about it is because those words never stop with words. And we've seen that just in the past year, right? We're just past the 1-year anniversary of Colleyville, where congregants and Rabbi Charlie were taken hostage. Rabbi Charlie now works at ADL as a security consultant. And, that individual flew over an ocean and went to a synagogue close to a federal prison because he believed that Jews were all powerful. And if he demanded the release of a federal prisoner from a rabbi, that it would just happen. That the U.S. prison system was just going to let somebody go. He believed in an age-old anti-Semitic trope that we see played on and on and on over the years. So when we talk about these statistics and these events, what I always like to say to people is sometimes it's easy to get lost in the numbers. But the only number that really matters to people when it's happening is one. Because behind each of those statistics is a life. It's a son, it's a daughter, it's a father, it's a mother. There are people that are being harmed. And one incident is one incident too many. And there's not one reason why it's occurring. It's kind of a perfect storm of events that are going on. The increased polarization in the United States, the decay of our political discourse in this country, people not sticking up for one another, right? And that tide has to turn. And what I will say, and now I'm going to switch to the more uplifting part of this evening, what I will say is that when I go across the 4 states that I've been the regional director of over the last 4 years, I've never been more confident than I am now that the tide is turning. And the reason why I say that is because community partners from across the spectrum are linking arms and saying, enough. We have political leaders at local levels, at state levels, at federal levels that are saying enough, that are using their pulpits to speak out against hate of all form, whenever and wherever they see it, with no equivocation. And that's what we need. It's what we need from our community leaders. It's what we need for our elected leaders. It's what we need from all of you. We all have a role to play in the fight against hate. There's no such thing as a role that's too small or too large. Everybody has their circle of friends, family, community members. Everyone needs to get active in the response to what we are seeing. You know, I always say when I talk about anti-Semitism that it is not an issue that just affects the Jews. But what starts with us never ends with us. I always say anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine of hate. So where you see a rise of anti-Semitism, you will see a rise of all forms of hate. And that's what we've seen. Look no further than the FBI hate crime statistics that are released each year. Right? We have a rise of anti-Black racism, a rise of anti-Asian racism in the wake of COVID. We have a rise of anti-LGBTQ incidents. It's incumbent upon leaders across the spectrum, Black leaders, Jewish leaders, LGBTQ leaders, we all need to link arms. We are all in the same fight together. And together, we will lift and we will fight back against the trends that we are seeing. What we do about it at ADL is really 3 things. We educate, we advocate, right? And now we litigate. And as far as education goes, right, I always say hate is learned. Hate can be unlearned. It is always better if hate is never learned in the first place, which is why we are proactive in trying to be in as many schools as possible, to talk about our anti-bias work, to talk about anti-Semitism. We are now in 85 schools across our region, which is a 200% increase over the last 4 years. Right? As many kids as we can reach is what we are going to try to do. We advocate. We advocate for stronger legislation. Right? We need stronger hate crimes laws in Ohio and across this country. We need to advocate to keep the Jewish people safe, to keep all of us safe. Right? We need to work with our state legislators. We need to work with our local city council members. We need to work with our school boards to making sure that we are not banning books. Right? When I say we all have roles in our communities, we could reach out to those people. They're accessible. Right? If you hear an inkling about a school board that's going to ban a certain part of education that our kids need to be taught, reach out. Say it's unacceptable. Voice your opinion. Talk to your children and figure out what education, what anti-bias programs are you running in your schools? Right? Because we want to be everywhere that we could be. And then when those things don't work, we need to litigate. We need to take people to court that have intentionally harmed us and others to make it harder for them to organize and for them to perpetuate their activities. And what could we all do about it? I know a lot of times people sit and they say, I don't know what my role is. And I think, the small things matter just as much as the large things. And what I mean by that is, gone are the days when you just overhear something that you know is wrong and you keep walking. We need to educate others. We need to correct the problem. Kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Hate is learned and it can be unlearned, but it can't be unlearned without education. People are repeating anti-Semitic tropes that they hear because it's been part of their daily lexicon for a long time. And sometimes they don't even know that what they're saying is anti-Semitic. The intent sometimes is not to harm, but the harm is being caused by the spread of the ideas. And so it's up to us to have the uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes it's with colleagues. Sometimes it's with family. Sometimes it's with friends. But when you hear something that you know plays on an anti-Semitic trope, interrupt, educate, explain why it's not acceptable. We all are capable of doing that, and we all need to start doing that. I got into this work. It was not a plan I had. Anita knows that. Anita asked me to join the board of the ADL. When I joined the board, I had been on for just 2 months when the most deadly anti-Semitic attack in our nation's history occurred just a couple hours down the road in Pittsburgh. And that's part of our region. And Anita called me and said that she was getting a group of board members together to go to Pittsburgh for the funerals and the Shivas and offer any sort of comfort to the community, to the families that we could potentially provide. I said, of course, hopped in my car. I was in no way prepared for what I saw that day. We've become, in many ways, desensitized to incidents of mass violence in this nation, unfortunately. You become very quickly undesensitized to it when you're up close in the moments directly after. And what hit home more than anything else was standing there and understanding that 11 lives had just been lost because they were doing what we are all doing here tonight. They were gathering in synagogue as Jews to pray. And they lost their lives because of it. And I remember that drive home like it was yesterday because I sat there in silence. I didn't listen to the radio or podcast or make phone calls. I just was trying to take in the sheer volume of pain that I had witnessed. Brothers who couldn't speak because they couldn't even get out the words. And I got home and I said, I need to do more. I need to get off the sidelines in a much bigger way because nothing is more important to me than raising Jewish children. And I needed to make sure that I was providing them a better world than the one we currently have in the fight against anti-Semitism and hate. And so my ask for everyone here today is that you join the fight in your own little ways, that you get off the sidelines if you're there, not for you or for me, but for the next generation, for them. Because it's a fight we could win if we do it together. Right? There is always, always more of us than there are of them. It is what gives me the greatest hope, is that in the midst of tragedy, you find the best of humanity. And I know Anita and I saw some of the best of humanity when we were in Pittsburgh. And I've seen the best of humanity in my 4+ years now at the ADL. You know, the question that I get asked the most often in any public setting that I am in, which shows you kind of the state of affairs in the United States, is it safe to stay? And when will we know when it's not, before it's too late? And those questions always hit me like a ton of bricks, as much as I get asked them every single week, because the gravity of those questions is very real, especially for us as Jews. And the answer that I have is, I, of course, think that we should stay. That's why I am here in this fight. And as I said multiple times during this speech, I've never been more optimistic about our ability to survive it. But what I do know, as much as I know the story of the Jewish people, is that just because you were born in the country does not mean that you know your grandchildren are going to be born in the same country, because our history has shown otherwise. Right? And so what that requires is, I plan on my grandchildren being born here, and for us to be Americans for generations to come, it requires that this not be a spectator sport. The protection of our democracy, the protection of the Jewish people, requires all of us to grab an oar and row in the same direction. And if we do so, we will be fine. We have seen dark times before, and we've seen them through to the other side. And we have seen far darker times than the times we are currently living in. Okay? Things are difficult, but they're not impossible. It's really just a matter of forming partnerships and figuring out how to lift up, right? Which we are doing day in and day out. I can't tell you the amazing partnerships we have formed with the Black community and the Hispanic community and the LGBTQ community. I'm so grateful for all of them. I'm so grateful for all of you for listening and for caring. And I know that everyone in here together is going to hear this and to want to join and to want to fight back against some of the things that we are seeing in our communities. Because we owe it to our children, we owe it to our grandchildren, and together we will do it together. We'll do it. So Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Cantor Lappin. Thank you so much, Rabbi.
James, we're so grateful for your leadership in fighting against hate, for your poignant calls to action tonight. I think we all feel a sense of charge to go forth and build those partnerships and to do the work with you. So thank you for leading us on that path. I love that we were able to end your remarks from a place of hope and of perseverance. I feel like that's very in line with this week's Torah portion, which is a story of hope and perseverance, a story of resilience, of going out into the wild unknown of the wilderness. And we know that when we're in periods of wilderness, we turn to the folks around us, to our community, to give us strength. And at this moment in our service, we think of those in our community who are in need of a little bit of extra strength. So as we turn our hearts and minds now to Misha Berach Lacholim, on page 253, we call into our hearts, into our minds, all those in our families and in our circles of concern who are in need of healing this Shabbat. We're thinking of Sasha Aber, Jerry Adelstein, Ro Allen, Kristen Barnes, Ruth Berger, Rosalind Brooker, Jerry Chalfin, Amy Cohen, Linda Craig, Josh Danielpour, Jerry Domsick, Ella Dubrow, George Fendel, Dr. Michael Foreman, Elliot Franklin, Mary Freeman, Sandy Friedman, Anna Greenfield.
Kara Greenwald, David Goldfein, Rafi Hami, Dr. Richard Harlan, Stephen Heller, Eric Hibbett, Margie Hodis, Robert Jackson, Rebecca Jacobson, Ethan Kadish, Sheldon Caffin, Linda Kahn, Ruth Kalin, Patricia Kipstool, Dr. Lewis Klein, Marla Lakin, Maya Lappin, Charlie Lewis, Kennedy Linston,
Suzanne Luria, Ashley Marino, Jennifer Russell McGee, Scott Miller, Barbara Misney, Olivia Nafa, our Rabbi Robert A. Nosenchuk, Sheila Orkin, Carol Plank, Jewel Price, Gail Ray, Jamie Raskin, Dr. Luke Reeder, Bernice Reef, Lauren Redding, Joseph Rocchio, Gloria Rogan, Gordon Safran, David Schlein.
Dmitry Stambler, Stephen Schlein, Alan Schwartz, Bob Schwartz, Mona Sankfor, Steve Shackno, Dana Weiss Schultz, Linda Snyderman, Estelle Slutsky, Esther Bathana, Barbara Steinfurst, Liviana Bree-Sulzer, Misha Zetlin, Angel Whistner, Richard Wilson, Manuel Wolf, Ilsabil Wolf, Eliza bat Yitzchak Chaim HaKohen V'Zelda Jenny, Ilana Ora bat Avraham V'Sara, Kyla bat Pesach v'Miriam, Mordechai ben Henya, Miral bat Yukatiel v'Rachel, and Chaim ben Chana.
We call into our hearts and minds those in our own families we're thinking of. If you're here in the sanctuary, as my eyes meet yours, I hope you'll share their names aloud with us. And if you're at home watching us on live stream, you can share their names aloud as well, or add their names into the chat feature. We join our voices together as we turn to page 253 and offer this prayer for healing as a community.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of spirit, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We take this opportunity also now to wish those of you who are celebrating a milestone celebration. Today we have birthdays, to share a blessing with you. And tonight we're celebrating with Louise Chesler, with Rosa Raskin, with Steve Walk, and with Robert Young, who are all celebrating milestone birthdays. Mazel tov to... How do you feel? Robert is here.
Here is good.
That's great.
Here
We're
is
so
good.
grateful. Yes. Hi, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. Please join with all of us as we share a blessing, Shechechianu, and may you all go from strength to strength as you celebrate these wonderful milestone birthdays. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen.
Amen.
Mazel tov to many, many, many more happy and healthy. We will continue now in our prayer books on page 282. I invite you to rise if you are able as we join in Aleinu. 282.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
You may be seated. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. This week in our community, our congregational families are marking a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days after a loss for Ronald Rubin, Dr. Donald S. Stern, Ann Carroll, Judge Cheryl Karner, and Hy Eisenberg. And our congregational families are commemorating the yahrzeits this Shabbat of Lydia Albert Alcalay, Jean Babish, Bruce D. Becker, Simeon Bendersky, Ann Burke, Sue Carol Bernstein, Irene H. Beskind, Ike Frank Bielowski, Jason R. Bluke, Frida Davis, Leonard Davis, Jesse W. Edelman, Simon Fischel, Ethel Frankel, Emil M. Friedman, Frida Friedman, Nettie Friedman, Rosa Friedman, David Fold, Rosetta Fold, William Jacob Geiger, Jason R. Glick, Ann Goldberg, Rose Golden.
William Goldstein, Nathan Gordon, Morris N. Halley, Judith Ellen Gee Levitch Hammer, Fred W. Helper, Fanny Hofheimer, Victor S. Insler, Millie Jacobs, Morris L. Jacobs, Sadie Kahn, I. Leonard Kaplan, Mike Kaplansky, Ben Karp, Minnie E. Kopf, Hortense Kahn Korak, Norton A. Korak, Elise Lee Krause, Elmer H. Kravitz, Norman Stanley Corlander, Samuel H. Lamport, Ida Laparau, Albert A. Levin, Sonia Levin, Les Levine.
June P. Levitt, Samuel Locks, Florence Mandel, Ava Mannheim, Gerald J. Miller, Rebecca Morris, Natalie V. Muller, Erwin A. Newman, Dr. Joseph Israel Nosenchuk, Albert B. Perlman, Judge George Pillersdorf, Bertha Bertie Polster, Gertrude Polster, Jack Polster, Anna Presnitsky, Nathan A. Reamer, Herman Ripner, Jacob Robinson, Marian Rossman, Howard Rusick, Albert Rosenthal, Isaac Sakharov, Sanford Schnurmacher.
Edna H. Shuloff, Morris Schwartz, Margaret Shapiro, Helen Shaw, Joanne Solomon, Sanford Solomon, Albert Sondheimer, Joseph Sondheimer, Lois Steindler, Sophie Steiner, Henry Stern, Lois K. Stern, Rosa Glauber Stone, Rose Sugarman, Elsie Lieberman Lake Wasserman, Herbert Paul Wexler, Clara Brummel-Weil, Max Weinberg, Rhea J. Weiner, Seymour Weiss, Jenny Wadiska, Nettie S. Ziskind.
If anyone else is remembering a name that has not yet been read and you wish to share their name with our community, I invite you to do so. Zichronam livracha, we pray their memories will always be for a blessing. If you're here tonight and you're remembering someone, I'll invite you to rise first so we can accompany you during this time of memory. And if it's your custom to rise for the Mourner's Kaddish, I invite you to please do so as we turn now in our prayer books to page 294 to recite the ancient words of Kaddish Yatom, page 294. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. We pray that the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to the world, and together we say, Amen. You may be seated. We have some announcements and some gratitude tonight. We're grateful to our wonderful greeters, our ushers, Lorenda and John Messer, to our musicians, Joey Scotch and Joe Tomino, to our amazing guest speaker, James Pash. Thank you all so much for making this Shabbat what it is. And to all of our behind-the-scenes folks, our amazing staff who help make things happen during the week and here during services, to Barb Smith, our executive director, Juliana Centuria. We're so thankful for the support of everyone here, at home, wherever you are. We're glad you're here to be part of this community. Tomorrow morning, Torah study begins at 9:15 a.m. I hope you'll join us. It's on Zoom. If you need the Zoom information, you can email Stacy Cohen, SCOHEN, @fairmounttemple.org. I'll be delighted to see you. We have a couple of upcoming events to draw your attention to. First is not next Shabbat, in 2 Shabbatot, on Friday, February 17th, we are participating with the National Council of Jewish Women in a national event called Repro Shabbat, where we will be highlighting the themes of Jewish viewpoints on abortion access and reproductive health care, a very, very important topic, a timely topic, a Jewish topic. I'll be speaking as well as Dr. Lauren Bean, who's a local pediatrician and also the executive director of Ohio Physicians for Reproductive Rights. It promises to be a compelling evening. I hope you will join us and learn with us. And after that, on March 5th, it's hard to imagine, but we're already talking about Purim. Purim is almost here. Wasn't it? I just feel like it was just Yom Kippur. I don't understand what's happening. 2 B'Shvats this week. Purim's coming up. Join us on March 5th and March 6th. We'll have special celebrations. Save the dates. They will be really fun and celebratory, and we will get into the story of Esther in new and meaningful, fun ways, as we always do. Other announcements? What else is happening? If you have people in your circles that have kids 0 to 5 years old-ish, our Simchat Shabbat, our monthly Shabbat series for families with young children, resumes on February 11th, so not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow at 11 a.m. So we hope you'll encourage them to join us, or join us if that is you. We have a lot of fun. We do a little hakafah with plush Torahs. It's very cute. There are bagels, so the more the merrier. Let us know if you plan to come. Okay, let's do Kiddush and Motzi to mark how sweet and special Shabbat is.
And please join us for delicious oneg after services, right outside. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
We conclude our service tonight, as we so often do, with a prayer for peace. We're thinking about fighting hate in the world. We're thinking about doing acts of love, of making this world a better place. So we know that peace won't just happen. We have to be partners in it. If you need the words to Aseh Shalom, they're on page 62.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat shalom.
everyone. Shabbat